Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We had a little bit of technical trouble with the electronics, so they're like little girls. If they're good, they're very good, but if they're bad, they're horrid. So that's with electronics. Anyway, very glad to see so many people out here from different parts of Cape Breton Island. We need your support, and this is a very important night. And our appearance in front of the provincial building on Prince Street Wednesday night, it's from 4 to 6 Wednesday evening, is going to be very, very important. Just as important as remember the 10,000 people that went on the parade for the steel, and they got the steel plant to be open for another 10 or 20 years or whatever it is. But we want this forever. This is our fight. This is your fight. And the Cape Bretoners take a lot. I remember a Minister of Labor was down here a long time ago when we were fighting for more work. And he said, "Oh, you Cape Bretoners are used to unemployment." He says, you don't need employment, sort of thing. And that's the attitude they have. We're sort of so nice and we accept everything. But that's not the way you live. We're fighters. And if there's a cause, and this is a good cause, so we'll fight for it. And there's a lot of money involved for our community. And I just want to say that as a priest, I feel very badly for those that have to go away and leave their families to work out west. I know it's good money, but it's hard work, and the separation of families is not fair in such a large scale. It's okay for a few to go away, but for most of our young people, and these are the educated and trained people who are going away, it's an awful drain on us. I see the churches are half empty, whether they're Catholic or Protestant or whatever, and I see all the businesses are suffering because of the loss of these people who are going away. So we, as Dan Christmas, the senator, said in his speech, Dr. McLeod, conferences, speeches up at Member 2, we are a dying community. And that's not fair. We should not be a dying community. We should be a vibrant community with good work and good living conditions for all of us. Now, the federal government knows that there's unequal conditions living in different parts of our country. And they came out with the Equalization program. I think it was 1982 when it first came out, was it? Around that time. And they said, we're going to give you $2 billion a year almost. And this is for reduction of your tax rate and improvement of your infrastructure. So if I were to ask you, in the last 30 years, has your tax rates gone down to Halifax level? No way. And what about your infrastructure? Well, your potholes have gone up, and some roads are practically impossible or impassable. So what has happened? What happened to all this money that was supposed to, it was given to the provincial government to distribute to us. And we have the figures. I've been at this now for over 16 years, collecting figures. John R. McDonald here and Father Orr McManus, who's here, and myself, were at the first meeting of the Equalization Committee, and we've been collecting information, and these people who are here in front of you on the table have been the ones who have been collecting the information. We have the numbers. They have the talk and the political confusion talk that you get sometimes from the politicians and from the government, but we have the numbers that are honest, and that's what we did. We collected numbers, but we were always going to the premiers and the president, the prime ministers, and so on, and they would just, these would throw in the basket. That'll go away. They'll go away, but we didn't go away, and we got this disturber here, Russell Green, who got on the internet. And he's the one who's got all of you here. How many? Over 300,000 responses? 270 or going up to 300,000 responses on the internet. And that's how you contact people. We didn't know that. We didn't know it. I'm too old to know that. And so a young, bright fellow like this, using our knowledge, our numbers, has raised this to the extent that it is here. It's a big, growing movement. It's very, very important. It's working beautifully in Prince Edward Island. They're getting along fine because the provincial government and the municipal areas and so on are all in just like that together. They're doing very well. They're very prosperous. And we get practically nothing from the provincial government. I'm just going to end up with a couple of numbers because with a doctorate in engineering, that's all I have is the numbers. And Father McManus and I were in engineering together as we were going through school, and so we dealt with numbers. The government officials said that 26.8%, which is almost a quarter, of the amount should go to the communities that are affected by poverty. And the provincial government has identified, is it 42? 42 communities? Pardon?
42 have-not municipalities.
42 have-not municipalities. Halifax is not one of them. We have higher taxes, greater poverty, and worse infrastructure. And so they worked out for each community what they should get. And they worked out that Cape Breton municipality should have gotten around $230 million that year and then, you know, every year after. The provincial government, in their wisdom, gave every community a seventh of what they said they should have been getting. For instance, Queens County was supposed to get $7 million. They got $1 million. We were supposed to get 220 or 30 or whatever it is $1 million, and we only got 32 million. Well, you say, well, 32 million is not too bad, even though we're supposed to get 230 million. But 16 million of that was a tax that the Nova Scotia Power Commission was paying to the provincial government, is a grant in lieu of taxes, which is supposed to come to us directly, and they included in what they said was our share of equalization. So instead of getting 32,000, we were only getting 16,000. And then my people here calculated that we collect $18 million and give it to the provincial government in our taxation, which should come back here to support our municipality. So we got minus $2 million from equalization. And that's a quarter from that fund of almost $2 billion. But what we never talked about here was that that's the money that came to us is the responsibility of our CBRM, our police force, our firemen, our waterworks, our streets, and so on. Okay? And the provincial government has a responsibility too, because they're responsible for hospitals and schools and social welfare and all that sort of stuff. Using the same calculations they used, that would mean another $700 million to be spent in our area, in the CBRM. That's almost $1 billion a year that should be coming down here. That's an amazing number. And you say, well, where is that money going? The money went into general revenue. And the provincial government is using it wherever they want to. You want to look at the library that they built in Halifax? How many millions? Hundreds of millions of dollars. The most modern library. The convention center, hundreds of millions. They're going to build an arena for football, hundreds of millions of dollars, special roads out there and so on. Anyway, what is happening is that our money is being spent to buy votes in Halifax. And they're not smart enough to know that the last 3 governments, which refused to give us our equalization grants, and it all went to Halifax, threw out those 3 governments. They should throw them out again, too. Enough said. On Wednesday, we're going to demonstrate peacefully and as friendlyly as we can with the support of the police. They're here and they're going to support us, tell us what we have to do. And we're going to show the government that they better listen to us, because we have the power to throw them out. And if we have to, we'll throw anybody out who doesn't fight for our equalization. So we're fighting, and you're going to fight for it. I know that you are fighters. And I'm a fighter too, and we're all fighters here. So why not? Why not assert ourselves and say, this is what is due to us. The federal government has said, this is what it's for. This is what it should be applied to. So thank you very much for coming. I really appreciate that. God bless you.
To continue, we're going to practice a few chants, but Wednesday night, I have the megaphone there, I'll use it in a minute. Wednesday night, Wednesday at 4 o'clock, when we go to the provincial building, we don't have the license to be on the street, so we have to use the sidewalks on each side of the street, so just remember that. Okay, I'm going to, we have 4 chants to practice tonight, 2 now and 2 later. So I'm going to pick up my megaphone and I'll read the first chant. I'll tell you what they are and then you can do it properly. What does Cape Breton want? And you say equalization. When do we want it? Now. Every time you hear that, when do you want it? You know, when do we want it? Now. Who do we want it from? You say the province. When do we want it? Now. Okay, we'll practice those 2. What does Cape Breton want?
Equalization!
When do we want it?
Now!
Who do we want it from?
Government!
When do we want it?
Now!
Okay, let's do that once more. What does Cape Breton want?
Equalization!
When do we want it?
Now!
What do we want? Who do we want it from?
Government!
When do we want it?
Now!
Great. We'll have 2 later before the end. Okay. Talk to you later. Everybody will get a chance to speak later. And I want to say one thing. I want to say one more thing. When it's time for you people to speak, it's on the agenda. We're going to limit each one to 3 minutes. So after 3 minutes, I'll ring the bell and you have a half a minute or so to slow down and stop. Okay, great. Now I'll introduce John R. McDonald, who's the man with all the stats. John R.
Okay, I know Father Maroon has talked a lot about numbers. You've seen a lot of numbers. You've seen numbers in the paper this week. A lot of confusion. In fact, I had someone call me from the Post, wanted me to review something because they were going to put a correction in for tomorrow. I think it's really important. I know there was a fair-sized article. There was quite a bit of discussion at the last council session, and certainly one of the numbers that they had was correct. It was the 26% number that we talk about, which is because of the relative weakness in property tax fiscal capacity. Now, the interesting part about that is that it doesn't say it's municipality, but the municipalities are the only government that collects based on property tax. Okay, so in spite of the fact that the federal government told us it was for the relative weakness in property tax fiscal capacity, I may as well have said it's for the municipalities. So 26% of the number this year would be $460 million. Okay? historically, the province of Nova Scotia, and you've heard it from many people, oh, you're entitled to 50%. You get 50% of it. So 50% of 460 million is $230 million, okay? That is a huge amount of money. That's a huge slush fund that covers, you know, it was interesting when I saw one article this week by a business association saying, well, it's wonderful how the council are cutting their expenses and cutting and cutting. Well, they are cutting and cutting. But maybe it should be the province to start looking at their bottom line and their cutting, okay? Because in distributing only 30,500,000 instead of 460 million, okay, that would be for the whole of the province, 460, 230 for us, 230 for the rest of the province. That gives them a big slush fund to work with. And the interesting part is that if you look at that on an average over the last 20 years, that comes to 7.4, you're only getting 7.42% of what you're entitled to. Now, not only are you being denied by being overtaxed and underserviced, the rest of Canadians, West, who are sending the money here, are also being highly deceived. They think it's coming to us, and in fact, it flows to general revenue. General revenue flows to build a shipyard in Halifax, when in fact the assessment of that shipyard forever flows to HRM. The World Trade Center that we subsidize with provincial money, the money flows, the taxes, forever to HRM. And we're the poorest. Now, there's other regions in the province that are probably worse off than we are, no question about it. But we're the biggest and the poorest. And until we can convince our federal politicians that they have to do something about this, it is your constitutional guarantee. Now, there are some who are saying, well, that doesn't matter. Well, why wouldn't it matter? Mr. Cotter got over $10 million because his constitutional rights and his Bill of Rights were infringed upon. Well, if you don't think you're being infringed upon, you're wrong. But it's important that we keep the number straight. It's 460 million for the whole province. It should be 230 for us, which is 50% of the total. So when we start quoting numbers, you know, if it ends up that it's 1%, the one thing that we can't trace is there's another, besides the 26% that we track and we know what's happening to, there's another 74% that there's no trace on. So we can assume that they're not taking it to the Barbados, that they're spending it somewhere. Whether we're getting our fair share of it or not, we don't know. But we certainly know what's happening to, what's not happening with the 26%. And I think if we can rectify that first and then have the Auditor General track the remaining portion of it as he should be and will be, I think that's important. So it's important that when you start quoting numbers that we use exactly the right numbers. And we should only be talking about the initial 26%, not be as much concerned about the 74% that's the remainder, that's the responsibility of the MLAs to spend with due diligence. So anyway, just to let you know, over the 20-year period, this community has been denied $4 billion. You want to build what do you want to build? $4 billion. So that's a significant amount of money. And just to give you an idea, the reason why it's important to get out and protest and make Mr. Mumbercat, who was in fact responsible for the department that's distributing this money, and also to the MPs that should be speaking to the Minister of Justice to say, are you going to make the law of the supreme law of the land count? I think it's important to understand that every single day that goes by is a $612,000 day that you've been denied. $612,000 per day, 7 days a week. So every day you do nothing, somebody took the money to the mainland. So those are the numbers. If anybody has any questions or wanted to contact me, there will be, for the next 7 weeks, there will be editorials in the Cape Breton Post that will be spelling out the project. It's worth you taking it, hanging on to it, clipping them out, and saving them, because you want to have the right information. So hopefully I've put it out there properly. If I haven't, I'll have to take the blame for it. But if people think that there's something wrong, I'm happy to take a phone call or an email, and I'll correct it at that point in time. So thank you for your time.
So we're just going to have Helen Morrison come up and have a little talk with our group. She's from the Transition House here in Sydney. And we have a few more speakers after that, but we'll just start with Helen. And on the little flyer that I'm sure everyone has seen, or there's copies at the front door, if you want to talk to John R. or any of the board members about that, their numbers are on the bottom of those papers. So he's kind of clarified it tonight for us. It's 26% of the $2 billion we get is $460 million. We should be getting $230 million of that right here. That's kind of what it's provided for us. So, and we're seeing some younger faces here. So this is important that, you know, we're fighting this for you guys. So come on up, Helen. Sorry, say again?
How much do we actually get?
$15 million. And we send back $17 million in collected taxes, so we get negative $2 million. $2 million in the hole every year. Come on up, Helen.
Hi there, everyone. My name's Helen Morrison, and I'm the director at Cape Breton Transition House. I just wanted to talk to you a little bit tonight about the fact that, you know, Cape Breton Transition House, our brochure says we're more than just a shelter, and we are. We have responded over the years to the needs of our community. We've responded to the lack of services in our community, and we've had to take on more than, I guess, originally our shelter was intended for, but because of the need in our community. And so we work with women and children. Our shelter can hold, we can house up to 20 people, women and children. We do work with men who are experiencing abuse. We just can't bring them into the shelter, unfortunately. I wanted you to know that recently, 2 years ago, we were awarded a grant to start a sexual assault response program. And unfortunately, after being funded for 2 years, $100,000 a year, that money was discontinued early in March. We were told that it was no longer going to be coming to us. And so we had started a program at Transition House called the Community Outreach Sexual Assault Program. And the work that we were doing with that was working directly with victims, doing navigation, helping them sort of navigate both the social system and the criminal justice system. And if you've ever had to be involved in either of those systems, you know how incredibly convoluted it can get at times, and how people really do need to have someone to walk that path with them. So upon losing that money, you know, we were upset to say the least. But you know, one person I talked to said, "Well, surely to God, there's somebody else in Cape Breton who can do this work." And my response was, "Surely to God, no, because that's why we were doing it." You know, and unfortunately, it seems more and more that it's do more with less money and do more with less. And we work really hard to do more. Besides having our shelter, we also have a clinical manager. She's a clinical therapist. She works with our women, both in the outreach and within the house, to help them with some bridge counseling to get them through until they're able to get into counseling. Because as you all have heard many, many times, it's very difficult to get into counseling, and in particular, mental health at our hospital, it's 343 days that you have to wait. So, you know, we also have outreach services. That's our outreach worker who works with women in the community who don't necessarily need the shelter, but need supports and to advocate for them on their behalf and to go to court with them. We also have a 24/7 support line, so anyone can call us at any time, day or night. They can talk to us. They can find out about our services. They can have someone just sit and listen to them, because more and more in this day and age, unfortunately, finding someone who's really going to listen to you is kind of a unique thing, I'm afraid. And we also have second stage housing. We have 2 apartment buildings that we house women in who leave shelter, but maybe still have a lot of safety issues, and so they need to go somewhere else into a safe and secure apartment. And so we have a high level of security there, and so we have 4 units in each of those buildings. Cape Breton Transition House itself, the shelter, we have a high level of security there. We have cameras, and we have, you know, all kinds, whatever we need, fences, cameras, the whole business. I guess I also wanted to mention to you that in the years that we've been in operation, since 1981, we opened the doors, we have grown immensely, and I thank Martha for asking me to come and say a few words tonight, because it appears that we are doing more and more all the time with less and less. And we have not really had an operational increase in our budget. I can't even remember when. We haven't had an increase in salaries for our staff who are unionized in 4 or 5 years now. So again, it's, you know, do more with less. And it just appears or feels sometimes that the need is greater all the time. Every year it's getting greater and greater. I just want to share with you a few statistics that may put some of this into perspective for you. And I know, again, numbers are, you know, sometimes hard to digest. But I have to put my glasses on because I'm too old to see this without them. But anyway, so last year at Cape Breton Transition House, we had 126 clients. However, we had 184 admissions. So that means that some of those clients had to come back a second, maybe even a third time. So of those who came to the shelter, and this is just our shelter, 25 of those were children. And I will tell you that from 0 to 5 years of age, we had 19 children, 6 to 11 years of age, 4 children, and 12 to 15, 2 children. As far as the women who came to our shelter from age 16 to 25, 20 of those were in that age group. 62 women were 26 to 45 years of age. 19 were 46 to 65. And this one always kills me. Women over 65 years of age. We had 3 last year. One was 67, the other was 70 and 75. So, you know, it's a viable service. I'm not going to sell our service, because it is a very important service and a very important issue for us here in Cape Breton to make sure that all of our services. We have resources. We have far less, I guess is the word I'm trying to, far less resources in this area than many of the than Halifax certainly does. And per capita I'm talking about. I'm not talking about that, they have more because they have more people. I'm talking about per capita. And so we have greater wait lines, wait lists. We have wonderful organizations that are closing their doors every day, or they're being decreased in their funding so badly that they're unable to maintain the level of service that is needed and that the people of this area deserve. And so last year, going back to numbers, or just this past month, for April of 2018, we had 139 distress calls. That's people calling us and telling us they have concerns and that they're being abused and they need help. We had 121 agency calls, and that would be agencies calling us to advocate or that we've been advocating for a woman with. We've had 113 information calls. We had 13 admissions in April alone. We had 8 male callers, and so men are reaching out to our organization. We had 2 EPOs that we assisted women with, and those are emergency protection orders. One EPO can take anywhere from 4 to 8 hours to complete. So that's a staff person working with the client to do that 4 to 8 hours. And so our occupancy rate last month was 73%. So again, I just wanted to say to you, it's really interesting. I don't know if it's just that I'm getting old or whatever, but I find it frustrating. I'm frustrated in trying to get proper, the proper services and funding in particular for. And sometimes I feel that when you're from Cape Breton, and anyone who knows me knows I love my elephants. And sometimes I feel like the elephant in the room. You're that big problem over in the corner that nobody really wants to address. But I want to just say tonight in leaving you that remember that elephants are highly, highly intelligent. And they are very strong. They are also so family-oriented and community-oriented. And that's my last one. And they never forget. So, thank you.
So, folks, we have some, since everyone knows we're going to be protesting starting on Wednesday. It won't be the only one. But in preparation for that, we talked to some lawyers about our rights. We know what our rights are to protest. But our lawyers advised us that the best thing to do is to work with the police on this. So that being said, we invited Sergeant McGilvery here tonight, who's going to be on site for us. So welcome, Sergeant McGilvery. He's going to have a talk to us. Okay? Announce the cops in the room, everyone just goes quiet. Welcome.
Jeez, you put me on the spot, is right. Russ, right? Jeez, I thought I'd get a better introduction than that. Anyway.
We do it Wednesday.
Yeah. Anyway, Russ called me the other day and he requested, that's okay, I can. Thank you. You can all hear me? Good, okay. Oh, they can't hear. Here, I'll just sit on your knee. Anyway, Russ called me the other day as I'm the traffic sergeant in charge of the traffic safety unit with the Cape Breton Regional Police Service. I'm also the officer in charge of the public safety unit. With your protest that you're going to be having, is it Wednesday? Wednesday. It's, I believe it's at the provincial building. All we're requesting as a police service is to be lawful. When I say lawful, peaceful, I understand your cause. As police service, we're there to help. We will be there to help. We don't want it to get out of hand. You guys you're here for a good cause for the community. You want Halifax to know, obviously by the crowd that's here, there's a lot of interest. What happens sometimes when there's a large protest, you'll have 1 or 2 people in the crowd that really don't care about your protest but want to get on the news and cause havoc. And that's what we don't want. You have a good cause here. You want to make your point known, but you want to be respectful. And basically that's what it is, what it should be. And I think that's what we'll see. We don't want any issues. And at the end of the day, the more respectful that you are, the louder you're going to be heard. So we'll be there. If you see anything, approach one of my officers, and we'll deal with it, and we'll go from there. But as far as any problems, talk to Russ. Anyway, that's...
Do we have to keep moving?
No. No, you guys, if it's a peaceful protest, you're there, please don't go on the road and stop the traffic or anything like that. Then, you know, then it gets into us, and we don't want anybody hurt. No. Your bottom line goal here is to be heard. Be heard as a group, you know what I mean? Not as an unlawful group. Because you know as well as I do, you'll get tagged as being an unlawful group, and you won't get your point across that you're trying to do, which is what you're here for today. And I guess that's about all I have to say. Excuse me? Oh, God, yeah, well, that falls under bylaws. But yeah, don't pick up your mess, too. You know, you're going to be respectful. Be respectful for everything.
Make her get her point across.
Exactly. That's what your whole goal is here in this protest, is to show, and you have to show in a large group, that you're there for a reason, and this is the reason why we're there, and you want to make sure that the message gets to the people that need to get the message, not being unlawful. Okay? That's good?
On the sidewalks.
Yes, just don't go on the road. Yeah? Yeah, until such time as somebody comes out and says, you have to go.
Great.
Okay? Okay? Good? Thanks, Sergeant. Yeah, have a nice night. Good luck.
Yeah. Now we're opening the room to any CBRM counselors who'd like to address the room. If there's any here, any CBRM counselors who'd like to come up and address the room, feel free. He's not a counselor. No.
No, it's not. No, it's not time yet.
Not time. It's not time. It's not. It's not open mic there.
Not yet.
Wolf.
You're asking counselors up here?
Yeah. Yeah. Councillor Erlene.
That's my own counselor over there beside.
Yeah.
Come on up, Ernie.
Councillor Erlene McMullen from District 2, my district, North Sydney.
Thank you. Okay, first of all, thank you everyone for showing up. I do have to pass along the regrets of a couple council members that were unable to be here. Councillor Gillespie, unfortunately, has food poisoning. Amanda McDougall is on a trip of her life to Vegas. Deputy Mayor McDonald and Kendra Coombs are currently at a workshop that was previously scheduled before this. But I see a few of my councillors here, and I might miss because I came in a little late. Myself and Darren Bushwager were at CBC, but I do see Councillor Perouche, I see Councillor Bushwager, Councillor McDonald, Councillor Marshall. And if I missed anyone, by all means, tell me I missed you. So anyway, obviously this cause is well supported by council. I refuse to actually stand up here and give any statistics because I'm nowhere as knowledgeable as the ladies and gentlemen sitting at these tables. What I will tell you from my limited experience in a council seat and from what I've heard when we were in the days of Mayor Morgan and this fight was brought forward, the biggest difference, and I will give that to Councillor Bushwager, is this time the people are the ones that have the voice. And that is what's refreshing, and that is what'll get the attention. A municipal council can be shut down. Something else I want to acknowledge is do more with less. That's almost our motto now. And I need people to understand that right from the beginning, CBRM had a tough go. When we amalgamated, and this is new to me, we actually combined all the debt of the areas that were having financial struggles, which was the majority. I believe there was only 2 that were in the black. And they combined that, and CBRM took on that debt. So when we started as a brand new municipality, I'm going to throw a number out there, but I'm sure, and Darren, can you nod to me if I'm close? It was over $50 million? $53 million. The day CBRM started, we owed. Now, that would be fine if that was what was done for every amalgamated community, but it's not. Not all communities take their debt, but for some reason, we did. So right from the beginning. And as far as our equalization payments, yes, we get $15 million, which is actually, like you said, -2, because we write a check for over $17 million right on back to the government. On top of that, something else, which again has come to me, I'll call it education of the new position, that government services that were provided or things from the province, from the feds, are also getting downloaded on top of us. They're now the municipality's problem. So, and I shouldn't say problem, but now our commitment. You know, it's very difficult. We're standing in a room here in a wonderful facility that asked us for a portion of funding to help them complete their project, and we couldn't do it. But yet here we are as a community gathered in the very building that we had to say as a municipality, I'm sorry, we can't help you. Do you know what that feels like as a council? You want to talk about frustrating. We do the best we can with the money we have. Our formula is obviously drastically wrong, and we need the attention. And council has tried to get that attention before and was unsuccessful, but we didn't have you. Cape Breton has faults, and yes, we are poverty-struck. We have low employment rates, but what we do have is a very strong community. There are a lot of great things brewing here in Cape Breton, and it's not because the province is responsible. It's not because the feds are responsible. It's not because the municipality is responsible. It's because of people like you that take the time to come out, do what they can in a have-not community, and fight for what we deserve. So as a member of council, I am thanking each one of you for being here. I'm thanking you for being understanding in the fact that, trust me when I say we're trying to do the best we can in a have-not situation with a lot less than we used to have and a lot less than we all deserve. So come Wednesday, know full well that I am taking very big pride in the fact that instead of you guys being behind council, that as a council member, I can stand with and behind you. So thank you for everything you're doing.
Okay. Thank you very much, Arlene. I don't know if anyone goes online and watches the CBRM Council videos on the CBRM website, but if you do, you'll know that Arlene and the newer councillors and Ray and Darren, these people are fighting for us in council. And if you haven't watched them, I thought Arlene was going to implode this week with the whole audit thing that was supposed to have been filed back in February, and for somehow the mayor misplaced it, and it was never done. And she almost imploded right there. But and that's because of you. Okay, so when we started this campaign, we reached out to a lot of politicians, and we just had the same, you know, right across the board. I'm talking from the Prime Minister right down to councillors and everyone in between. And I thought it was odd, month after month, we heard from no one. Zero. We heard from the councillors, and that was it. So we started sending more and more letters and more emails asking for more and more figures, and nothing. Won't speak to us. You get the odd stock response that this has been sent to Bill Morneau, or this has been sent to Justin Trudeau, or whatever. But that's it. It just ends there. But the next person I want to introduce to you is someone, and I have to say that this board up here is nonpartisan. We're not for any political party. We don't even talk about party politics among ourselves in our meetings. It's all about the community and a lack of funding. But this next person I want to introduce, I guess I'll have to say, is the first person in government, especially at an MLA level, to stand up and fight in legislature for us. And if you haven't seen her videos, you can see them on our website, on NSEF on Facebook, and you can watch her tooth and nail fighting with the Premier and fighting with Derek Mumbercat and fighting for this island. Anyway, we want to introduce Tammy Martin and our MLA.
Oh, wow, what an introduction. Thank you. So, yeah, I'm an MLA, and I'm the MLA for Cape Breton Centre. I was elected under an NDP. However, I'm here as a Cape Bretoner, and I'm here as a member of the provincial government, or no, as an opposition member to the provincial government, and somebody who is determined to work with you and for you as your MLA and take these concerns to Halifax, because I'm telling you, nobody is listening. Right now, I will guarantee you, though, that the government is watching. The government knows how many people are here. And I'm far from the one that has the answers, apart from these wise folks. But I do have some information that, just this week, or last week, I guess, we had a presentation in Halifax from, I forget the gentleman's name now, about homelessness. Fred, thank you, about homelessness in Cape Breton. So not only are we not getting our fair share of money, equalization, whatever we want to term it, we're also suffering so severely in so many other ways. Look at our homelessness. So per capita, we're about 137 people homeless in CBRM in any 12-hour period, compared to about 190 in HRM. So per capita, we're higher. We have a higher homelessness rate in CBRM. CBRM is the second largest municipality in the province of Nova Scotia. The government allots $7.2 million to deal with and fight homelessness in the province of Nova Scotia. CBRM gets $152,000, and that is it. So, it's not just about what we don't get in equalization. Look at our hospitals. Look at our health care. I learned on the weekend that youth who are homeless are put on a bus and sent to Halifax because that's where they have a facility, because we don't have one in Cape Breton. So when I ask the Premier and I talk about this in government, and where is the help for Cape Breton? Where is the help for our healthcare system? Why do we have to wait? We're just as important as anybody else. Why do we have to wait 353 days for mental health services on Cape Breton Island when you can get it immediately or relatively quickly in HRM? Why are we not as important? And as I said, believe you me, government is watching this right now. And as these people said, Wednesday, silence is golden. Right? We need to have hundreds. And somebody said about the march, the 10,000 for the steel plant. You're absolutely correct. Because when I was elected, I said, I'm not going to Halifax to make friends. And I can guarantee you I haven't made one. Because you know what? They don't like what I have to say. They don't like that I ask these questions, and they don't like that I don't go away. And I said the other day I was talking yesterday about healthcare in another part of the province, and I said, I was told not to swear. We shouldn't care what political stripe you are when we're talking about the survival of Cape Breton, the survival of CBRM. And I will tell you that I got myself in a little bit of trouble, not the first, it won't be the last, when I talked about the NSEF in the legislature before the House rose, and I said, and I called on the minister, because we have 2 cabinet ministers in Cape Breton Island, and I apologize if they're not here, but I don't think they are. We have 2 cabinet ministers, one responsible for the municipality file, and why are they not here? The viability of Cape Breton should be their utmost priority. I first am a Cape Bretoner. I'm here first as a Cape Bretoner. I have a big, loud voice, and I will use it accordingly, because I think we need to stand together, we need to fight together. Political affiliations aside, and when I called the member out in Halifax and said, Cape Breton is dying, I got a little backlash. Well, you know what? Senator Christmas said Cape Breton is dying, and that's why we have hundreds of people in this room right now, because people are concerned that Cape Breton is dying, and you need to reach out to these cabinet ministers. You need to keep the pressure on, because when they don't hear anything, everybody thinks it's wonderful, that everybody's doing a great job. So, you know what? Pick up your phone, write letters to the editor, call. We work for you. I'm employed because I was elected, and I work for the people of Nova Scotia, specifically Cape Breton Centre, but I represent all of Cape Breton. And I take my direction from the constituents, and so should every other MLA that's elected, especially in Cape Breton. So you have my guarantee, my word that I don't know the answers, but I'll fight with you to find them, and I will stand with you, as Erlene said, and support you, and take this issue every chance I get, right to the Premier. I sent him a letter yesterday, and I will continue to send him letters. I sent it to the NSEF so they would know, calling on his urgent action on the disparity of funding in CBRM and all of those issues, and that is my one commitment to you, that I will stand with you and fight for you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
You want to talk? Want me to just do it? Yeah. Yep. Okay. Okay. Thank you, Tammy. That was awesome. Just a few more things before we get to the open mic. I know that's what everyone's waiting for. I can see them gritting their teeth. So we do have your signs available here for the protests. We have them down the back here. We ask that you take one with you when you go. You just sign your name and your phone number so that we can get a hold of you. It's important that if you take a sign that you show up. That's really important. There's been a lot of work put into them. My mother and my cousin Lauren have worked feverishly for a month on these signs, coloring these letters in every night, every day, all night, all morning. We have a lot of people to thank, especially with the board members here, Charlie and JR, Martha and Terry, and all these guys over here, especially Father Maroon. He's funding this himself 100%. And I don't have to tell you, like everyone knows that he does a lot of work with charities, and yes, he is funding this and still working with his charities, but it's taking its toll, I'm sure, in his wallet. But so the signs you'll pick up at the end of the night at the back here. The one thing I want to stress to everyone is that Wednesday at 4 p.m. we're going to be on the sidewalk. We're going to be there. It was in the paper. It's all over social media. If everyone can bring one person with them, we'll double this number right here. So if you can bring 2 people, we'll triple it. We really like to have 1,000 people on that sidewalk. And that's really important to show the government that we're not joking, that we're not kidding around with this. This is a serious matter. We realize it's a serious matter. There's been more talk about Cape Breton breaking away from the province of Nova Scotia in the last 2 weeks than probably ever. So we know that this is a serious issue. So we just want to make sure that everyone's aware that the more people you can bring with you, that is very important. So even if you're a neighbor or so forth. So we're going to open up the open mic now, and we have our open mic cop here. He's going to time you, and it's going to be about 3 minutes. And when you hear the bell ring, you better wind it up, because our sound guys over here have a button on the all you got to give them is a thumbs up, and they silence us all. So we'll open it up for open mic, okay?
I just have a question to ask the council, your panel there. Do you have a plan B? Yes or no? Do you have a plan B, yes, or you have a plan no?
Yes, our plan B, Will, is that for the next, today and 7 more weeks, there'll be a long article by John R. on the editorial page, and then we'll take it from there.
Yes, I've read one piece of it today.
Keep
Yeah.
people informed, and that's for 8 weeks starting today.
Yeah.
So that's part of our plan. It'll grow as we go.
Yeah, we have to finish educating the people, and then we're going to go from there.
Well, you know, you don't mind if I turn this way, do you? Okay. You see, this situation, okay, is going to take a plan B. I lived in Quebec for 30 years, and during the time of the FLQ and the Parti Québécois and René Lévesque. Now, what happened there was they promised, okay, they were getting in the same position, okay, as we are in today. The government wasn't giving them their fair share of the equalization payments. So René Lévesque formed a party called the Parti Québécois. And with that party, he then made a referendum, which they almost won. His idea was sovereignty association, which means he wanted sovereignty but associated with Canada. Now the problem, and I've been back to Quebec a number of times now since I've settled here in Cape Breton, back in Cape Breton, and you would not believe the billions and billions of dollars that province has gotten just by the threat, okay, of we're going to separate. Well, I'm looking at Cape Breton not separating, but I'm looking for Cape Breton as a province, the future 11th province of Cape Breton. Now, we've had a lot of time here, okay? We've had all kinds of talk about equalization and that, and it's going to take time. I can guarantee you, they say there's 300,000 people here, okay, that are signing up and in their favor to go after this equalization. Well, that 300,000 will turn into about 40 million if you put it across Canada, that Cape Breton wants to become the 11th province of Cape Breton. So, the 11th province of Canada. So that's what you need. You want to hear something to yell into that microphone there? I'll tell you what the next step, provincehood, and that's it. Think about it.
We could just ask you when you stand up just to introduce your name and then have your say.
I'm not going to talk about the railroad, but I am going to talk about equalization and exactly why we need it. First of all, I want to say that the infrastructure in Cape Breton is crumbling, and it's crumbling fast because we don't have the money to render to see that it's fixed up. Now, if we take a look at what has happened in the past, we are still paying into the cost of education. We had no say. They took the board away. We're still paying into regional housing. We have no say. We're still paying into the correctional center, which we have no say. Now you put all those together, and there's $15 million we're paying, which we should not be paying, because that money should be coming out of the income tax. And it should not be under the property tax, because none of it services property. Having said that, we're shafted in that particular area. Now we come down to equalization. And we need the equalization now so that we can look after some of our infrastructure, which we can't afford to do. Now, how in the name of heavens are we going to encourage industry to come into this area if we're trying to look after the infrastructure with peanuts? There's no chance. We're having a fight. We can't even get our railway back here. Now, there's a lot more to be said, and time is restrictive. But I just want to say in regards to politicians. Politicians are the people that we put in power to represent us and do the best they can. And I'm sure that most of them will do that. But I do think what we have to do is remind them that Cape Breton is so far down the shaft now that we need the support, and I mean the full support, of not only the municipal politicians, but of the provincial and the federal politicians. We put them there in our interest, and we should demand, because we have no time, we don't have too much time left. Our population is declining each and every day, and when our population declines, the political power declines with it. And surely we need the support of our federal and our provincial and our municipal governments coupled together to come forward and make sure that we receive our proper equalization payments. Not only that, take a look at what's happening in the area, and we're going to have to provide industries to make up for what we've lost in the coal mines, the steel plant, and the whole issue. We're going down the tube faster than we think, unless we act now. This is not a situation we should wait for next year. It should be done now, and they should carry the responsibility. That's why we elect them. And I hope that they will get together and come up with the answers that are necessary to put Cape Breton back where it belongs. And we can bring our people home that are all over Canada and parts of the United States looking for work. Thank you very much.
Hello, everyone. Well, I guess I can consider myself a bit of an insurgent amongst you tonight. My name is Christian Murphy. I started the group Cape Breton United Party. Today, when I left the house, we had 3,204 members. We've actually come in second place in social media and have displaced the Liberal Party. I had the pleasure of reading an article from Dr. Johnson, and Dr. Johnson said, Nova Scotia will not give up the Cape Breton because we are a major reason for the province's claim of being a have-not province. Now, before I leave you, I just want, when we look at all the disparities, it's not just equalization, it's how the money's spent. Halifax has a huge department in community economic development. I didn't know Halifax has a community economic development problem. This is how the money is being spent. So, ask yourself, are we in decline because of circumstance, or is it by design? Therefore, what is our options? take back the power. It is time for us to start some type of autonomous party relationship with Nova Scotia. It's within our power to do. There'll be those that say, hey, you can't do this. It's not in the Constitution. It's been written out this way. They're words, people. Words can be rewritten, and we can make them rewritten. So, if you will, I hope at some point you will all join us on the social media site, on Facebook, the group, Cape Breton United Party, as we start to develop a process and a path to autonomy. Thank you.
That's Christian Murphy. My name's Rob Murphy, but no relation. I wasn't going to speak here tonight, but I kind of want to say a few words. Last year, I'm a musician. I wrote a song called 300 Days, and I wrote it to bring a little bit of attention to mental health wait times in Cape Breton. And the response I got back from people, I mean thousands of people, and mostly kids. It wasn't people in their 30s or 40s. It was children. It was 16, 15, 14-year-olds. It was ridiculous. And, it's great that we want to fix our infrastructure and all that there, but you look at Transition House and you look at domestic violence amongst families, it all stems from a lack of services. It all stems from unemployment. I look around this room now, and I'm 40-ish, and I know that a lot of my friends are probably watching on that thing over there because they all live away. There's not many people my age that live here anymore or in their 30s or 20s. They're all living out west. Do you think they want to live out west? Absolutely not. And they're sick and tired of it. They want to be home with their families, And I guess that's kind of just what I wanted to say is that, I'm very proud to be a Cape Bretoner here. I'm very proud to, of all of you guys and everything that you have put forward over the years and put your life, a lot of you is probably a huge part of your lives, so, for no financial value. It's something you believe in. And I just want to say to Tammy Martin, great job. I'm from Waterford originally. I was from Waterford, but I live in South Bar now. I spent part of my life in Sydney. And it amazes me that we're supposed to have a new highway built in South Bar this year, Tammy, or next year? It was supposed to be, I was told 2018, a couple years ago, when I moved to the area. And, you're walking along the highway and you're falling off now. I'm pretty sure that we'll get our highway when it's close to election time, right? Right? Absolutely. Yeah, the machines will be parked there for the next 3 years. But I'm also part of Christian's movement. I won't get into that there too much. But, for the first time in my life, I feel like there's something that I need to be involved in. And, I'm really happy. I'm really excited for this movement. And for all of these groups getting together to support each other because that's what we need in our community. So thank you.
Good evening, folks. My name is Jody Turbot. I was born and raised right here in the pier in Sydney. But I just got back from British Columbia. I've been gone some 60 years, and I'm home here to stay. Now, to listen to this gentleman 3 speeches back about separating and Quebec and all that stuff, that's fine. But what you're going to have to remember is if we make any attempt to separate, what's going to happen is Ottawa will have to open up the Bill of Rights, and once the Bill of Rights is open, away goes Quebec, away goes British Columbia, and I live there, I know, and so does Alberta. So if we go for a territory rather than splitting away from Nova Scotia, it makes a lot more sense. Now, I listened to all this talk tonight. It's wonderful, and you people are doing a wonderful job. But the one name I did not hear tonight, and that's our fearless leader, Trudeau. Now, everybody knows this guy's been to India. He's been to Chicago. He's traveled right across Canada. He's hit every city in Canada, including twice in Nova Scotia, once to Halifax, once to Dartmouth. But my goodness, he never came to Cape Breton. What I would like to propose is let's get together and give him an open invitation right on our national CBC television and get him an invitation to come here and talk to the Cape Bretoners. And that's it.
Hi, my name is Keith McDonald, and Justin Trudeau actually was here. I remember 6 years ago, I was in high school, and I was sitting in a place like this, but it was at Sydney Academy, and he was giving a speech. I'm guessing he was trying to get the youth vote for 2015. This was back in 2011. And back then, the Liberal Party was the cool thing because no one liked Stephen Harper at the time. But now, at the time, when he was on the stage, he was like, Canadians this and Canadians that, but I don't remember him saying anything about Cape Breton or Nova Scotia. And I don't remember him talking about the child poverty that maybe a third of the people in the gym were at the time. So I find there's a disconnect between Cape Breton, the mainland in Nova Scotia, and the rest of Canada, and sometimes it feels like we're being silenced. So there's another thing I noticed. If you look around the room, there's so many seniors, and I find that's intimidating. So, the people I went to school with, they're either working low-wage jobs probably right now, or they're gone. Never heard from again. In this issue in particular, I like how Cape Breton wants to become a province because that's something new, and that is interesting for the rest of the country, and that'll bring attention here and a lot more interest in this island. So one more thing I want to talk about is when it comes to the Constitution Act of 1982, I looked at that little piece that talked about equalization, and the second paragraph mentions that it is the government's responsibility and commitment to, let's see, it was not entirely. It had to do with the equalization amount. It was the second paragraph of Section 36, and it talked about, let's see, I just read it a few minutes ago.
Taxation and services?
Yes,
Yeah.
we need a reasonably comparable taxation, and that's not what's happening here. You look at the numbers, and 15 million out of 239 million is not sufficient revenue for the Cape Breton Regional Municipality. And 1.8 billion is not comparable public services in Halifax to here. And an 87% higher residential tax rate and a 67% commercial tax rate higher than Halifax is not comparable taxation. So I find that's something that the government has to look at, especially the federal government.
Could your name begin? Your name, please?
Keith McDonald.
Steve?
Keith.
My name is Glenn Muse. There's a lot to talk about here, but the people that we want to speak to are not here. So we got to address this to outside of this audience. We're all in agreement that we're being shafted. We all know this. We got a couple of dingbats in Ottawa that one can't and the other won't. And they sit there and pretend like they have some kind of cone of silence that, remember, Get Smart and used to drop the cone of silence down. Well, these guys are acting the same way, and they're coming out with garbage like this letter that was in the Cape Breton Post by, I won't even say his name. They grow tomatoes over there. You should come back and grow tomatoes over and stay there. And the other guy who gets to go to Christmas parties, and he recites the 12 days of Christmas with Cape Breton tinges to it, you know? And they get free drinks. So this is the Cape Breton attitude that you see presented in Ottawa. The little orphans from down in Cape Breton that don't have anything. We got to take care of them. Well, we have 8 MLAs. We saw Tammy here tonight, which was a good thing. Now, are you willing to walk across the floor and take the other 8 or the other 7 MLAs with you? Are you willing to caucus together in one little group and say Cape Breton matters more than parties? Because when I think about political parties, all I hear from people are nothing but crooks, shysters, and they're out to get their 2 years in to get a pension. 2 years as an MLA and you'll get a pension. Okay, I worked in the underground of Lingan Colliery and left part of my leg down there. And I was buried under tons of coal. Okay, there's no, you got up and you sucked it up and you went back to work the next day. Okay, there's no PTSD settlement for that. You got to be kidding. I'm trying to get a hold of Derek Lumbercat. I'll say his name because he's a weasel. He is running a constituency office here as a shadow office. Okay, he never shows up. Now, we had meetings planned, not about equalization. We're talking about WCB, workers' comp cases. We're talking about 16 men have committed suicide in the last 6 months in the Sydney area, in the Glace Bay, in the Waterford, out of desperation. 16 men. And you don't hear about it. You see it in the newspaper. It said, died suddenly at home. So what does that mean? That's code for taking your own life out of desperation. And if you want to get mental health in this area, they'll line you up with occupational therapists. They won't give you mental health workers. They give you people like LPNs that never had any training in mental health. And they line up, and this is all BS. It's a game being played from up in Halifax. We had a housing development here that started in 2005. When I came out of the hospital after a PTSD episode, there was nowhere to live. People were checking in to the mental health unit because they wanted to get out of their rat-infested apartments to get a break. And they were saying they were going to do self-harm. So they would take them in for 2 or 3 days, turn them around, and send them back to the hole in the ground. Well, we developed a plan in a committee and a group of people, and we put together a plan, and we started building apartments. But when it looked like there was going to be some autonomy for the tenants, they pulled the plug on it. Now, there are 36 of these apartments that went on to be built with a very small skeleton crew to work along with these 37 tenants, okay? Now, what you got going here is a waste of resources, and they don't talk about the successes. This should have been raised up a flagpole and said, we got 36 people who had never had anything in their lives, basically, had brand new apartments, washers and dryers included. I'll just say this. When you're walking down the street and you're seeing somebody with a little bag, you wonder where they're coming from? Just think twice about where they might be coming from. Because back in 1923, they mowed down hundreds of people with cops on horses, And after that, carrying the bag was a little thing that they did when you got dried fish and biscuits to go home to feed your family. And that's what's going on here now. They will settle for less. Well, I'm sorry. We started as food banks in 1983, and we're still doing it. Thanks.
The name is Jimmy O'Hanley. I'm from Glace Bay. Again, please? Jim O'Hanley.
Oh, got it.
We've been misrepresented from a federal perspective, provincial perspective, and from a municipal perspective. It took youth people here to turn around and bring to light what's actually happened here in Cape Breton. And I can thank you for that. From a federal perspective, what we have money that comes from the federal government. And at one time when it came to us, it came in allotments for health care and for education. But what the federal government has done, the federal government has given the province a bundle of money and leaving the province the right to turn around and do whatever they want. And as a result of that, what's their health care like? Just take a look at it. It's terrible. And where is that money going? I haven't got the answers, but hopefully through this here group, we will get the answers. And where's our leader here from the municipal government for CBRM? Where's Mr. Clark? Is he here? And as I said before, there's an MLA is the only person here as representatives from the MDP. We have nobody from the Liberal government. And of course, it only stands to reason why we wouldn't, because those are the people that are shafting us. Thank you very much.
Good evening. My name is Christopher Abbas. I live in the north end of Sydney. I've just recently moved back from Alberta a couple of years ago. And I've been listening to everybody talk here. And it seems that everybody's got a sad story to tell, that this is suffering, healthcare is suffering, we don't have enough money for police. I think that's a given. Everybody here already knows how bad it is. I think it's important that we focus on what we're going to do about it instead of talking about how bad it is. We already know how bad it is. And I think that maybe amongst your committee or something, I really think you should have a head, somebody who has actually that the news people can go to say, well, what does the Equalization Committee have to say about this? And somebody who they know who it is. It's Father Maroon, or it's Mr. McDonald, or it's Mr. Sampson, or I don't know anybody else's name, or I'd say you all at the table. But I really think it's important that we keep our focus on what we're going to do. We can write our MLAs, we can write our MPs. You can tell your friends in other ridings to write their MPs and their MLAs. Tell them what's going on down here. As far as Cape Breton being the 11th province, that'd be a pretty difficult thing to do. I think you need 7 other provinces to ratify it. That's a long, long road. Not that it wouldn't be great. Not that it would be great. It wouldn't be great to have it, but I don't think that's really a viable alternative. Somebody said about perhaps having a territory, maybe. But right now, I think we need to focus on putting the heat on MLAs and MPs. And like I said, get on the phone, write letters. It doesn't cost anything to send a letter to an MP in Parliament. Thank you.
Good evening. I'm just wondering. The only thing I have is really a question. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm Blake McLean. I'm from Glace Bay. I'm wondering what would the incentive for the provincial government be to grant Cape Breton its fair share if we are the reason for Nova Scotia receiving equalization payments in the first place. You're welcome, Halifax. Yeah, we're hurting here, but everybody knows that, right? That's what it is. And we can do things like, I don't know, many manufacturing solar panels. We can do things for ourselves. As far as doctor shortages, can we not assemble accounts and say, okay, look, you come to Cape Breton, we'll do your books for you. There must be ideas that we can come up with besides just being treated fairly. I don't think Halifax has any incentive to treat us fairly.
I just want to answer you back there.
Please.
Okay, so had Halifax been giving us this money for all these years, we would have a lot of industry developed here. And guess what? They wouldn't get any more equalization. It's to their benefit to keep Cape Breton and the Royal Nova Scotia depressed,
yes,
because then they continue to get it,
yes,
to keep a have-not province status. So, I mean, if we've been getting our $230 million, is our new figure we're using, $230 million a year, every year for the last 20 years, what would Cape Breton look like today? Would look like Halifax.
Thank you.
Thank you, Blake.
Hi, my name is Jamie McDonald from North Sydney. And everyone, Lord knows I don't like being here at this mic because my wife's probably surprised I got up. But this movement's too important to not stand up. Okay, this movement's too important not to stand up. I'm all about numbers because I won't support anything unless I see the numbers and they're clearly, this is supporting your movement. And I was going through this weekend and I was looking up all kinds of numbers just to see, what's going on here. Because, everyone knows what's going on. We can see it. But the actual numbers, people don't know the numbers. So I was looking at stuff during the weekend. I was looking at child poverty rates. And this is from, like, the CCPA. The Canadian Centre for Policy Alternatives. And Halifax is 18.5%. So, and then you look at here, Escazone, 73% child poverty rate. Remember too, we think they're doing good, 49% child poverty rate. Sydney is not too bad, 25.5. That's good here. North Sydney, City Mines, they're both 31.1. Glace Bay, 35. New Waterford, 39%. That's just ridiculous that our kids are living like this. And then I was looking up university funding. I mean, Dalhousie, I'm using Dalhousie as an example, and they get $166 million per year, and they have a lot of students, right? They have 13,000 students, so they get $166 million. UCCB gets 18. They have 2,511 students last time I checked. So Dalhousie gets $12,300 per student. UCCB gets $7,800 per student. Child poverty, unemployment rates. Halifax is less than 9%. Latest figures here, 16%. Like we're talking child poverty, university funding, unemployment, and there's, like, I could go on with different things I was looking up, and it's everywhere. It's not just, it's ingrained into everything, like everything we have here. Halifax is fucking screwing us over. They're just ridiculous. This is just ridiculous. What kind of society would allow this? Why would Halifax allow this? They just hate us. They hate us. And the lady was on, I don't know where she was on, Go Cape Breton. She was talking about the view that they have of us. It's just ridiculous. What do we ever do to them? Half of Halifax is Cape Bretoners. Yeah. And like my father always says, right, when they go to Halifax, it seems like they're the ones that hate Cape Breton for some reason. Like Dad used to always say with John Buchanan. My father used to always talk with John Buchanan. He's a Cape Breton. He went there and he hated us, so he hated us more when he went there. So anyways, that's all I have to say, because I look at the numbers because I got to see the numbers so that if I don't see the numbers, I don't go out and support people. Because it's just not why. They're not, the numbers aren't there. But I looked up the numbers, and people got to realize what the numbers are. They're just ridiculous. Yeah. Anyways. Thank you.
Just a comment on that for that, Jamie. You know, what happened after 1917 when the house city blew up? Who rebuilt them? Was it Ottawa? No, it was Cape Breton. It was the revenues from this island that rebuilt that city. Then it was the steel plant and all those glory years when they were, you know, growing as a city, and all they were was a port city. And what did they take from us in the 30s, 40s, 50s, and 60s? Steel plant revenue. And then the coal mines. We had it going on. They had nothing going on. And they made sure they turned the tables.
Hi, we're going to grab a sign here on our way out, and I will be there Wednesday. My name is Pamela, formerly McNeil, born and raised, graduated from Reserve District High School in 1986, and we left a month later because my dad worked for the heavy water plant, both of them at one time. We came back 4 years ago. I made an attempt, though, after my divorce with 2 kids, and it was 92, 93, right when Robin's Donuts opened up on Grand Lake Road, because I tried to get a job, and there was way too many people. The desperation and poverty has gotten worse, and we find it so sad. My folks come home to retire. One of my sisters moved back here, too, and we're now living paycheck to paycheck again when we had 30 good years in Alberta, but I gave them my money. I couldn't raise my kids here as a single mom and afford, well, child care and daycare on top of it. I would have loved to. Many people have to. They don't have a choice. I'm back for good now, but our whole family and a lot of you are sad. And we loved it. My grandson, 9 years old, I sent him a globe for Christmas this year, and he can find Nanny because he looks for the little piece of land on the world map that looks like a heart. And he said, that's where Nanny's heart is. And it is. And I have a plan B. It's going to sound silly, but I know who some people in Port Hawkesbury, and I think if this doesn't work, let's erect a big billboard that apologizes to our travelers coming in for our road conditions and things that are missing and already gone. I know the mayor of Port Hawkesbury would be okay with that, and he might get a good chuckle out of it too. But I think a big sign down there apologizing for our road conditions and nothing being here anymore because our money is stuck in Halifax.
Yes, good girl.
Thank you.
Thank you, Pamela. And really, what do we have left here on Cape Breton Island? We have tourism. And have we ever seen our roads as bad as they are right now? Yes, we can. Lots of holes. Yeah. I think this will be our last speaker, and then we have to cut off the open mic, unless there's anyone really important that has something to say. We just need to wrap it up, but go ahead, sir.
Thank you very much. My name is Gary Smith. I'm from the beautiful town of Glace Bay.
Gary Smith.
Thank you. First of all, I'd like to take a moment to remind myself that we are standing and sitting on lands that are untreated and unceded by the Mi'kmaq and other Aboriginal people. Somebody talked about why we're here, and we should not forget. I'm here for a very selfish reason. I'm here because I have a son and 3 grandchildren and a lovely daughter-in-law in Alberta that wants to come home. And I have a son and a lovely 2 granddaughters and a daughter-in-law in the Northwest Territories that want to come home. And I want them to come home. They want to live where they were born. They want to live in Cape Breton. And there's nothing here for them to sustain them while they're here. And I look at this group, and I look at this cause as maybe my last hope and their last hope of getting them back to the place where they were born and to the place they love so dearly. And I hope you're successful. Thank you.
Okay, everyone, I think we're going to wrap it up. Do you have something to say, miss? Come on up.
I got talked into coming back, and I was just leaving.
With regard to the march, we want attention. I'd like to see us with some marching, some pipes. We want to draw the attention that means something to us. Ahead of us and behind us, that's all. You can, whether it sounds crazy or not, but.
Something to look at.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. I'll get it. Okay, everyone. Well, we thank you again for coming out tonight. And like I said, get your signs at the back there. They're probably getting low. But remember, Wednesday, 4 p.m. from the Provincial Building, and please bring people with you. Thank you. Oh.